Alrighty, greetings to all of my fellow Chun warriors. Welcome back to another Sage's Dojo session. This is your host, Sage Armageddon, coming to you live with another Sage's Dojo session. In this session, something I wanted to go ahead and talk about is a technique that is very important, especially in higher level play in Street Fighter 6. And that's something that you've probably already heard of, and it's called the shimmy, shimmy. And what exactly is a shimmy? You know, what does it entail? What is it used for? We're going to go over all of that right here. So the first thing we gotta understand about a shimmy, what it is in the context of Street Fighter 6 is it is a maneuver or a technique that is basically used to trick your opponent into thinking that you're either going to try to grab them, or you're going to do something that can be beaten with a reversal, and we'll go over the effects of that a little bit later. But ultimately, the primary purpose of a shimmy is to catch your opponent when they think that you're going to grab. And you've probably seen it plenty of times before. You'll see someone, get somebody into the corner with something like a spinning bird. Let me go ahead and set this up first. Actually, let me go back to Ryu. I don't know why I have Marissa as the standard bot for the training room to pick up. Let's go ahead to Ryu here. Ryu, I think he's already set with the good stuff. Yep. And pretty much this is what a shimmy looks like. You have your opponent in the corner, and then you go to throw them, and then they whiff the throw, right? That's pretty much what it is. That's the long and short of it. And what this is, obviously, as you can see, it's used to try to open people up, because one of the reasons why the shimmy is so important is as you grow in your journey through the master ranks especially, you're going to come to realize that people have very, very strong defense. You're going to get to the point where people are going to block parry everything that you do, and it's like, I can't get them. And because of techniques, I'm not going to go over this technique so much in detail. I'll probably bring this technique up just because it has something to do with shimmying, but it's not going to be, this isn't going to be about techniques and option selects and things of that nature. But the technique in question that I'm mentioning here is something called a delayed throw tech. People that know how to use this technique, which are a lot of like high master and higher players, are going to utilize that. And it's going to make them very hard to actually hit. So you have to know how to work with using the shimmy in order to try to get people to open up, right? And we're going to go into that a little bit more. So as we've shown, a shimmy can be performed anywhere. It could be performed whether it's in neutral, whether it's in the mid screen or it's in the corner. It all depends on your character and what you can do with your character. It's a little bit harder to shimmy out in the open because people tend to roll like that, but you can do it. If they roll and I dash up like that, and as you can see here, Ryu, you see that? Now, unfortunately, I did fail the shimmy right there, but if you successfully perform a shimmy correctly, you should see the punish counter flag up here, like this. That means your opponent is stuck in the animation and they can't do anything else, right? So it's a little bit harder to do out in the open because people can roll and things of that nature. But once you get them in the corner, that's when it really becomes strong because your opponent can't roll anywhere. They're in the corner. They can't. Moving backwards is not an option. So you do something like this, pretend you're going for a throw, and then you can, and I messed that up right there. Let's try that again. And there we go. You see a punish counter. And of course, if you get a punish counter on your opponent, you do more damage. A punish counter throw specifically does pretty much twice the damage of a regular throw, so about 2040. If you get a punish counter on your opponent, especially a punish counter throw, as you saw, they lose quite a bit of drive gauge. They lose one whole bar of drive gauge, right? So it's definitely very valuable to be able to do that to your opponent. It does twice as much damage, and it counts as a hard knockdown. So if you do a punish counter throw out in the open, your opponent cannot roll anywhere. It's not an option. Let me try this here so you can see that. And I messed it up. Let's try it one more time. See? Ryu's not gonna, he's set to roll back automatically. He can't. He's gonna stand up in place. And for certain characters, even Chun-Li, this gives you more options on, your opponent has fewer options, which means you have more options on what you can do to them. That's pretty much what a shimmy is. Now, why it's important is because what I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to actually have the Ryu bot do a bunch of stuff. Now, actually, let me go ahead, and this will probably be easier if I do it with Chun-Li, since I'm obviously more familiar with the character. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to set the bot to do some aggressive actions to try the best that I can to simulate an actual game. And then I'm going to show you why shimmying is important. But just to explain it, it is important because you can block anything except overheads and grabs, of course, by just simply crouch blocking. So in order for the if I go ahead and get the Chun-Li bot to crouch block, and then we're gonna set a block count. So she's gonna block 3 times and then get hit, right? So if I'm doing a bunch of stuff, the bot's not gonna get hit. You have to do an overhead. See how the box stood up? You have to stand up in order to block this, right? All this other stuff is gonna get blocked. Obviously, we all know this. You know, if your opponent blocks you doing something unsafe like this, you're gonna get punished. Like doing a super, you're gonna get punished, right? So I think we get the point. So let's go ahead and get rid of the block count here, and we're gonna go ahead back to after first and standing. So, you know, they can block, and then parry beats everything except throws and command throws. Parry beats literally everything else, as I've stated in previous dojo sessions. So if you have somebody that's doing this, you literally can't touch them unless you throw them. So when you fight high level master rank players, whether high master, grandmaster, higher, they're legend players, they're going to have very strong defense the higher you go. It's going to get to the point. I fought some people that were practically impossible to open up without implementing a shimmy. Players that I'm like, I cannot hit this guy. I have to actually slow down and try something a little bit different because they're just blocking and teching everything that I do, right? Part of how they are able to get away with that, like I stated, is something called a delay tech, but we'll get into that a little bit further. So I'm going to go ahead and get Chunbot. I'm going to record Chunbot to do some aggressive stuff, and then I'm going to show you why shimmying is important. So I'm going to do a few recordings here. And pretty much what you're seeing here is this is a strike throw mix. As Chun is doing this, it's very hard to actually interrupt this. As you can see. Now, technically, you can't interrupt this. However, it is very risky because the most that I can do is get a counter hit in this specific setup, as you can see. So let's go ahead, just so that you can see what's happening here. Let's go ahead and turn this one off and then show the strike. See, I can technically try to fight my way out, but it's hard to do it. I'm mashing and I'm still barely getting out of it. Right? Most of the time I'm being counter hit, as you can see here. See, so you technically can, but as you can see, the Chunbot can actually get a trade combo on that. So, and there are other ways that you can get. There are ways that you can get a true strike throw mix, like with Ryu or Ken or something like that, off of a heavy punch. With Chun-Li, it's a little bit harder to actually do that because she doesn't have something that just puts people on OD block stun like that. So because the way she's approached, other characters can just do a heavy punch like this, and then they can like Ken or Ryu. I'll actually go ahead and demonstrate that very quickly here before we continue, just so that you can see what I'm talking about, because I know it might seem like it's all over the place, but I want to make sure that we get it, what's happening here. That's a true block string right there. I can't press through that. See? I can literally let go of my controller, as you're about to see right here, and she's still blocking it. I can't even try to mash through that. I can't mash anything, not even a super or reverse. So Ryu could do something like this. Let's go ahead and record him to do this. Yeah, it's probably better this way, to be honest with you, than to use the Chunbot. And then we're gonna have him do this. Right. And what's happening here is that This is a strike throw mix. If Ryu continues to keep pressing buttons, he can just beat me out of whatever it is that I'm doing. Let me go ahead and make sure I have this recorded correctly. Like that. He's gonna beat me out of whatever it is that I'm doing if I try to mash. Alright. Let's turn this one off for a moment so you can see exactly what I mean. See? If I try to mash my way out of this, I can and will get counter hit, as you can see. Because he has frame advantage, right? So now what happens is that if I think Ryu is going to, if I'm like, okay, I don't want to press anything, I'm going to block instead, Ryu can just do this. Right? That's a strike throw mix up, as you can see there. Now that we have that established, something that you can do is an option select called a delayed throw tech. And what it is the delayed throw tech is when you are on defense, you press the throw button roughly, this is a rough estimate, I don't know the exact time. You press the throw button maybe about a few 2 to 3 frames or so, maybe a little bit more, after you would do an attack. The reason why is because there are things called meaty attacks. So what I'm going to actually do is switch back to Chun-Li for a moment here. And I'm going to have Chun-Li knock me down and do a meaty attack. Like this. Right. In order for the meaty to work, it has to be exact timing. Right. That's how people do it. If it's not exact timing, you can just mash out of it. I'm going to show you what happens if Chun messes up the timing. Right, like that. And it's get knocked down. And if she messes up the timing, we just mash out of it, right? So it's going to be, people are going to have their meaty setups to be exact, perfect timing for the moment you get off of the ground, like this. So that means if you try to press any of your normal buttons, if you do anything that's not like a parry or a reversal, you're going to get hit. I'm doing a jab, the fastest move in the game, and I'm being hit out of it. So any of my attack buttons will not work. I have to do something like this. Like this. Parry or block. Those are my options. All right. And the thing is since the meaty has a very specific time, sometimes your opponent will go, they'll go for the meaty, and sometimes they will go for a throw. And let's show the difference with that. So we're going to go ahead and get Chun-Li to do a different recording here. I'm going to have her do a different meaty on knockdown. We're going to do this one right here. I didn't time that right. Let's try it again. And just to show you that this is a meaty, I'm going to go ahead and try to mash. And as you can see, it failed miserably. That's because it's perfect timing. And then we're going to record Chun to do a meaty throw, which blends in with this because it's the same maneuver, as you can see. And that's just to show that that's also a meaty throw. I'm going to try to mash through this. Now, how this works is that if your opponent is going to press a button, obviously you're going to get, you know, these both beat your buttons, period. You can't mash through it. But you might say, okay, I'm going to try to block Chun-Li so that I don't eat a combo. I'm just going to go ahead and block, and then you get thrown, right? So what the delayed throw tech is that you delay the throw input just a little bit after you would get hit by a meaty, and I'm mistiming it. So what you want to do is you stand block, and then you throw like about a second afterwards. Right? If you can see my inputs on the left side, and I actually mistimed that right there. I'm still mistiming it here. Let me see if I can. Yeah, there we go. Because when you throw, it doesn't have to be exactly when they throw. You got about like a good 0.7 seconds when they put their hands on you to break the throw. So if you do this correctly, you will block any meaty attacks, and you will still be able to break the throw. As you can see, I'm pushing throw, but I'm still blocking. See? And then I'm gonna wait for her to throw me again. See? That's what a delayed throw tech is. It beats the mix up of your opponent trying to do a meaty strike or throw. And when your opponent is pressuring you, if you can catch their rhythm, you can also do it the same way too. So if I go ahead and record Chun-Li to do the following. Let's try this. This is technically fake because it can be interrupted, but that's how Chun is, right? And then you do a throw there. And then let's go ahead and see what transpires with that. So if we're blocking, Chun could go for a throw with that. Now, the reason why it's like, oh, but you just mashed out, that's because she's going for a throw. If she decides to keep doing more attacks like this, let's go ahead and have her do the same thing here. Right, like that. And that's the only thing that we have on. So if we try to go ahead and mash through it, because it's like, oh, you're gonna get counter hit, as you can see. So that's where the mix comes in. So it makes you want to block so that doesn't happen. So when you're blocking, as we demonstrated before, you might get grabbed. What she's doing here is pretty much a strike throw mix. Now, of course, as we just demonstrated just a few moments ago, you can do it with meaties, but you can also do it when your opponent is pressuring you with buttons like this. Because 9 times out of 10, they're going to press a button, like a jab, before they try to throw you. Right, like this. So that means that you can, as you can see my inputs there, even though I'm blocking, I'm still doing the throw. Right. You do have to be careful, because if you do it at the wrong timing, you still can get countered. I'm doing it at a time where I'm on block stun, so that way if my opponent is hitting me like that, her next attack has so much frame advantage that I can't do anything. So that means if she keeps attacking me, as you can see there, Chun-Li is forced to block. Let me go ahead and show this again. Let me see if I can slow it down a little bit. Let's slow it down to 50%. We're gonna have Chun-Li. Oh, whoops, I think I got the wrong recording. Let's pick this one here. And pay very close attention. See, I don't get hit until the 3rd strike. I can't mash through that because when she does the drive rush into the jab, she has enough frame advantage to keep. That's like a true block string, the first 2 jabs there. Right. I can't mash through that. It doesn't matter what I do. See? But the 3rd one I can. The 3rd one has a gap. The reason why that's important to take note of is because when your opponent likes to do that stuff where they try to go for a tick throw like that, where they jab you first and then they go for a throw afterwards, the reason why they're doing that is because they have frame advantage and you have to kind of guess now. So when Chun goes for that again, after the first jab, I can input throw. If she continues striking, because there's no gap in between the first 2 jabs, it's not going to make me do anything. But if she decides that she wants to stop attacking me and go for a throw instead, it's going to let me break the throw. Right? See, that's pretty much how it works. Hopefully it's making sense. So the reason why shimmy is important is because, as you can see what I'm doing to the Chun bot here, the Chun bot's trying to open me up and I'm not having any of it. I'm breaking every throw, I'm blocking every attack. But what if she tries to mix things up? Let's go ahead and add a few more recordings to it. What's wrong? Keep getting mixed up with that. Let's go ahead and have her do some crazy stuff like this. Maybe not that. Let's try this. And then just to mix it up. Like that. Alright, okay, so she has a bunch of different things that she's going to try to do now. I'm going to turn the throw one off. I'm pretty sure the first one is the throw. I'm going to show you what happens when there's no threat of throwing. And we're just gonna have all of these here. This is what I'm gonna do. I don't have to. It's like, oh, but you have to react to the overhead and the lows and stuff. What if she goes low? If you're parrying, you don't have to do that. I could just keep crouch blocking and just parry. Unless I'm trying to get a perfect parry, I don't have to try to guess what's going on. See? I'm just gonna parry. And if we add a low into that, similar sequence, just adding a low. Oh, oops, I messed that one up. I let go of the parry. Let's try this one. This probably might be a little bit better. Let's go ahead and try. And then we're going to try this. Like that. So, pretty standard Chun mix-ups, right? You're like, oh, which one is she going to do? And then I try to react to which one is happening. Okay, she's gonna go low, let me block low, and then you get over here. Okay, she's gonna go high, let me go ahead and then you get hit with a low, right? I don't have to do any of that. Let's just parry all of it. Right? We don't have to try to guess any of this. The parry is gonna beat every option that she tried. So that's where the shimmy comes in. And let me go ahead and demonstrate what that's going to look like. So we have Chun-Li doing all that, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna parry this stuff. So she has. Keep in mind that this is not optimal like block pressure. This isn't like true block strings that I'm doing here. Don't copy this into an opponent that you're fighting unless you train them to block. That's just a warning, because they're gonna be able to mash through it, right? This is just to help give an example. Just a little heads up for you. So all these little stance mix-ups that you see me doing are like, just be careful when you try doing them yourself, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have Chun-Li do this. And I'm actually messing it up, pushing her back a little bit too far. I'm trying to make it blend so that way you can't, there's no tell to tell what's happening. So let's just say that that's what, she can mix that in with the overhead and the low. And I'm just sitting here like, oh, look at this guy. He's and then she grabs me. All right. So that's how you can deal with parrying. Now, how shimmying works into this is a very similar idea. You're trying to mix into your opponent and, they're blocking, parrying, and stuff like that. And how it works here is because, as you saw, it's not always so easy to defend. Otherwise, people would just have it like they would never lose, right? So, but pretty much what you can do is if you time it right, if she tries to go for a throw, as we showed before, Chun doesn't want to go for the throw right now. If she tries to go for a throw, what we can do is, let's go ahead and turn this one off and just leave the last two. No, actually, let's leave this one on. Those two blend much better. Oh, I want the overhead and the throw. Right. See, you think she's gonna go for an overhead? What I'm doing is the delayed throw type. So you think she's gonna go for an overhead, you can just delay the throw like that. Like I said, I'm messing this up. Like I said, it's not the easiest thing in the world per se. It does require training, right? As you can see. But if you know what's going on, as you can see here, you can block multiple things by option selecting them with the delayed throw type. She's doing the same maneuver for the overhead and for the throw. She's going out of the stance like this. And that's how these stance mix-ups work, right? Is because your opponent gets confused. Is he gonna do he's doing the overhead, let me parry him, and then you throw him, right? Where the shimmy comes in with this is that if you have somebody that's just delay throw teching all day, let's go ahead and get rid of all this stuff. And we're gonna start from scratch. If you have somebody that's delay throw teching all day, let's go ahead and do this into the throw, this into the jabs, this into the jab into a back walk, right? So if you have somebody that's just delayed throw teching all day, see? I whiffed the grab right there. You saw that, right? Let's see if she'll do it again. See that? Now what happens if she follows through on that? Let's go ahead and see that? I got punish countered. That's what a shimmy does. Because there are certain option selects that help you to deal with multiple things. They say strike throw are the most common ways to try to make somebody guess. But when you fight somebody that really knows the rhythm and the patterns of what people are trying to do with their attacks, especially if you're getting off of the ground with meaty attacks and meaty throws, people are going to just do the option select of delay throw tech. All right. So that's what shimmying allows you to do. Shimmying allows for you to deal with people who just sit here and delay throw tech all day. Trust me, I have fought people who it's like impossible to open them up because they just delay throw tech all day. Now, the reason why it's so difficult to deal with them is because Chun-Li actually has a difficult time shimmying. I find that she has a difficult time shimmying, to be honest with you. Other people might not think so, but for me, I think she has a harder time shimmying than she should. I'm going to show you what a shimmy looks like when I pick somebody like Ryu or Ken. Let me try with Ken, actually. I actually know a little bit of something with Ken. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to have Chun-Li. We're going to have her wake up and do a throw. See? We walk up to her, threaten a throw, walk back, heavy. Now, this is 10 frames. As you can see, you have quite a lot of time to react to the whiff throw, right? And you can walk back pretty far. See? It's very forgiving because the heavy punch has a lot of... And I'm gonna, to demonstrate that, I'm gonna have Chun-Li also mix it up by doing nothing on wake up, like this. See, plenty of time. Oh, I missed. I was a little too late there. See. My reaction speed isn't the best, but I still have plenty enough time to do a heavy punch on reaction with this. Now let's try doing that with Chun-Li. We're gonna try using Chun-Li's heavy punch, which in theory is the furthest reaching heavy punch in the game for characters of this type of archetype, right? We're not talking about giant characters with super long limbs. We're talking about like all-rounders and stuff, right? So what we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna knock Chun down and we're gonna try to do the heavy punch. See? You pretty much have to do a wish punish. If you try to do this on reaction, it's not gonna work. You saw me, I was able to do it with Ken, despite a blunder or two. I was able to do it right there. It's still hard to do though when the pressure is on. As you can see, it's very hard to try to do 13 frames in response to somebody whiffing a regular throw, right? And that's part of the reason why it's more difficult with Chun-Li, because you have to, not only do you have to be closer to them, so that you can use one of your other attacks. You can't just use a heavy punch. Heavy punches go further than crouch medium punches for a lot of these characters, especially for Ken. But this move is 13 frames, right? And if you happen to goof and push the heavy punch and your opponent does like a drive impact instead like this, you're dead, right? So you can't cancel it or anything like that. So you're just going to get blown up for free. So you can't use a heavy punch. So you have to use something that's faster, that doesn't have as much range as her heavy punch, which means you have to be closer. And the closer that you are, the more things the enemy can hit you with. See, with Ken, they have fewer options. This isn't going to hit him. This isn't going to hit him. They have to use like a heavy punch of their own or something like that, which is very slow, right? And they're not going to wake up heavy punch. Nobody's going to do that, right? So if you shimmy somebody and they try to press a button with Ken or Ryu, they're going to most likely whiff, which means you can whiff punish them. But Chun-Li, you have to be close enough to the point where they can actually hit you. So if somebody wakes up and they do something like this, the standard, see? The standard moves to try to shimmy somebody with Chun-Li are this move, which is her 2 medium punch or crouch medium punch, and this move, which is 2 heavy punch. These are the 2 things that pros use. This one doesn't, it's 11 frames. It's technically a heavy punch, but it doesn't have anywhere close to as much range as like Ken's heavy punch or anything like that on the first hit. But you can still kind of use it because it can be drive impact cancel, but you still have to crouch. That's another variable, which means when you're in a high pressure situation, the more variables you add, objectively, it's going to decrease your chances of success no matter how good you are. So it doesn't matter how good you are because you are adding another variable instead of just walking back and doing it. Since you have to crouch, you might accidentally get this move. Now, it's a very low % chance of failing it, but it's still a % chance. And this move, the first hit of this, which is the 11 frames, doesn't go as far. All right, so you have to be pretty close to them. You have to be pretty much be in range where this will hit. Right. This hits a little bit further, but this is also 11 frames, so it's not as fast as Ken's heavy punch, which is crazy, right? Let's go ahead and have Chun-Li go ahead and let's try to do the shimmy. And by the way, this is decent shimmy practice as well. I'm gonna go over how to practice shimmies in the next video, but in the next session. But in this session, we're just going over what shimmies are and showing examples of it. Right? Now, I should still be able to land this, as you can see, but it's a little bit trickier. You still have to mind, you still are in range for her crouch medium kick. Chun-Li has to live in the range of those buttons, so that means that your opponent could get out of the corner if you make a misread and they actually do a delayed button or something like that. They can actually get out of this situation more easily than against somebody like Ken. And there's more % chance for you to fail. Crouch medium punch is probably the favorite option that you'll see a lot of high level Chun-Li players use because it's the fastest. You get more time to respond. It also allows for you to get a meterless knockdown without having to use a drive rush cancel. But it has really, really, really bad range, so you have to be very close, even more than the crouching heavy punch. You got to be really close. But what it does allow for you to do is if your opponent decides that they jump, you can, if they want to try to jump out of the corner, you should still have plenty enough time, as I'm going to demonstrate here. We just need Chun-Li to actually do it. And that's supposed to be a backwards jump. My apologies. I mean a forward jump. Let's try that again. Okay, shimmy successful. You can still anti-air them. So that's one of the values of this, but the range is really bad and you have to crouch to use it, right? It just makes it a little bit harder to actually shimmy with Chun-Li. A lot of the times when I'm trying to actually shimmy somebody, I end up missing because I'm too far away from them. This move doesn't have the best range. You got to be like really close. And some characters like Alex, their character models are deceptive as crap. So you'll think that you're far away from them, but you're actually close, and etc. and vice versa, right? So it's a little tricky. But pretty much that's what you would do with Chun-Li. But it's just objectively less impactful as being able to shimmy somebody with a heavy punch, right? Kimberly's heavy punch, Cammy's heavy punch, Terry, Ed, Ryu can, right? All these characters have these heavy punches that they can just kind of use to shimmy, and it makes it so much easier to also eliminate options. Now, Kimberly doesn't have the best range on her heavy punch, but it's 9 frames and it still goes further than this. I can attest to that. So it goes further than this move, and you don't have to crouch. You can just back up and then just throw out the heavy punch, right? It just makes it easier to do it. Suddenly you have to, Capcom wants you to do more work with this character across the board. Right? But that's pretty much how you would shimmy with Chun-Li. Another way that you can shimmy someone, you can actually do a jump. Now, the benefit to doing this type of shimmy is that you get a gigantic combo because you have a jumping attack off of it, right? So it adds a lot more damage to the table. You have to time. Now, the downside is, of course, you have to time it very well. Right. This is not an optimal combo. I'm just coming up with something on the fly because I'm not used to doing combos off of jumping attacks. Chun-Li almost never lands her jump attacks because her jump is so bad, right? So, but that's pretty much, you get a gigantic combo if you catch your opponent with this. That's the plus side. Downside to this is that you can get anti-aired if your opponent calls you out on it. If they call you out, you can't. So it's a little bit riskier. Also, another thing I forgot to mention is one thing about Chun-Li doing her crouch medium punch, her 2 medium punch to shimmy someone, is that it allows you to block. So if you make a miscall and your opponent does a crouching medium kick like this, you try to shimmy them and they go for a button instead, you can at least not eat a combo. So that's one cool thing, whereas characters like Ken, if they miscalculate a little bit, they can still get clipped by a crouch medium kick. But there's so much more wiggle room for them that they can probably get out of range in a decent amount of time, right? So the crouch medium kick does go pretty far. But like, yeah, if you do something like that, sometimes people panic. All right. Her crouch medium kick goes further than normal, but the standard crouch medium kick, characters like Ken and Ryu and stuff, they can get away with just kind of like, just whoops, and then like scaring you like that, and then walking away. That is one of the benefits for Chun-Li's because you're crouching. Whereas the other characters are at risk of being clipped because they have to be standing to do the standing heavy punch, right? But yeah, that's pretty much the skinny on what shimmying is. It's a technique that is used to try to open your opponent up when they are just relying on delay teching to do everything. If you are fighting somebody and they're just blocking and teching everything that you do, and you can't open them up, that's when you got to start implementing the shimmy, because otherwise you're never going to actually hit them unless you're making them whiff punish or something, right? So, which technically that's what a shimmy is. It's a whiff punish. They're just whiffing a throw, right? So if you have somebody that's delay teching a lot, that's something that you need to implement in order to make sure that they don't just get free defense. So you have to mix in your options with that, right? So you're fighting somebody's delay teching all the time. You have to mix in a shimmy in order to catch them lacking so that you can whiff punish them right that way, right? And that's pretty much what shimmying is. Hopefully that was useful for you. In the next dojo session, I plan on going over ways to practice shimmying and also ways to beat people who try to shimmy. And also, one extra bonus that I forgot to mention, shimmying also beats people that try to do wake up reversals. If I have her set to do an OD Tensho kicks on wake up, shimmying also beats this. So it beats throws and it beats people trying to mash reversals and supers on wake up, right? So that's something that because it allows you to block. because you're backing up. Same thing if you do this shimmy. So that's one of the beautiful things about shimmying as well. It does beat that, but primarily the shimmy is to open people up by making them whiff grabs. And that's pretty much the Yo shimmy. Next, those are sessions, as I mentioned, we're going to go over how to beat shimmies and how to practice shimmying. With Chun-Li, it's going to be a little bit trickier, but you saw pretty much a glimpse of how you would go about practice shimmying, but I'm going to give a little bit more information on that in the next session. But thank you very much for attending. Hopefully this wasn't too scrambly for you, because I know it's a lot of information and it's kind of difficult trying to, on the fly, really be able to explain it in a way that makes sense. But hopefully this was helpful for you. Feel free to like the video if you like it, subscribe if you're willing. This is going to be Sage Armageddon signing out. Have an awesome day. Take care.